Hi everyone, it's Tish with Naptime Creations. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe. It's free and it'll help me out a lot, so hit that subscribe button. Today we're going to be trying something a little bit different. I'm actually going to be trying to make a silicone mold of something that's 3D and doesn't have a flat back to it. So let's jump in and get started. Really quickly, I wanted to show you how I mix up my silicone. I'm using the S RESIN silicone rubber. It comes in two parts, a part A and a part B, and I was working on a few different projects at once when I did this. I was planning on measuring out 15 ounces of my part A, but I ended up pouring in 15.1 ounces. So I poured in 15.1 ounces of my part B, zeroed out my scale. Now I'm going to go in with 15.1 ounces of my part A. It's a 1-to-1 ratio by weight. You have to have a digital scale for this brand of silicone rubber. And after you have your equal parts measured out, just go on in with your stir stick. I'm just using like a paint stirrer from the hardware store, and I'm going to mix this up for 3 minutes. And I'm mixing really slowly. You want to scrape the bottom of your cup, scrape the sides of your cup, scrape off your stir stick, just like you would if you were mixing resin. You want to make sure you're not introducing a bunch of air bubbles in there. So just really stir slowly, and you want to make sure that you're scraping the sides of your cup so both of those parts get mixed. And this is what I do. I personally do this because it ensures my silicone is going to be 100% mixed. I take that first cup that we mixed up for 3 minutes and pour that into another cup. And I'm going to mix that up for another 2 minutes, just to make sure it's 100% mixed. And you want to make sure you scrape everything out of that first cup. Still mixing slowly, making sure that I'm going to mix it up for another 2 minutes. I just like to do that to make extra sure that it is mixed up properly. And now we're going to make our mold housing. So for the bottom of my mold housing, I like to use packing tape. I took 3 pieces and just overlapped them on each other so they made a barrier. And this is what we're going to be molding today. We're going to be molding this crystal snowflake ornament. I'm just going to use a food container for my mold housing. This is just like a pomegranate container. I cleaned it out really well, washed it out, cut off the bottom, placed it down on my tape, and now I'm going to go in with 100% silicone around the perimeter of my mold housing to make sure none of my silicone leaks out. You want to make sure that it says 100% silicone on the product that you're using. You can use hot glue for this. I have had people say, why don't you use hot glue? It's cheaper. Well, I've still had leaks using hot glue, and silicone rubber is expensive. I've never had a problem with leaking using this silicone caulk, so I like to use this because I'd rather not have a bunch of the silicone leak out. But if you want to try it with hot glue, go ahead. Sometimes it works, sometimes it leaks out, but I've never had a problem with the silicone. So I went all the way around the perimeter of my little food container that I'm using for my mold housing, and now we're going to drop down our snowflake. You can see that it is 3D. It is not flat on the back side. So I was kind of nervous to try this, but it ended up working out okay. So I'm just going to place that down in my mold housing, making sure that there's enough space around the snowflake, making sure that it's really pushed down there. I was trying to push it down on that tape, and now we just pour in our silicone. Super simple and easy to do. And when I pour my silicone, I like to kind of hold it high above my mold housing and pour it in a thin stream. That helps eliminate bubbles. Like I said, I was mixing up about 30 ounces because I was working on a few different projects, but I think 6 ounces would be perfect for this project if you were just doing something small like this. I let it dry for 24 hours, and now we're going to take the mold housing apart. I'm just pulling the tape off the bottom, going to take that silicone caulk off of there, take my thumbs, push the mold out of my mold housing, and it's going to pop right out. Super simple and easy to do. And you can see the silicone really ran underneath that snowflake. I kind of anticipated this happening because I knew it was 3D. It wasn't really super stuck onto that tape, but that's okay. We're going to fix it. No worries. I'm going to go in with a cuticle trimmer and just trim around the perimeter of my mold. You can get these off Amazon. I'll link them down below. They're really great for trimming up silicone molds. And now I'm just going to go in with my shop knife and very carefully cut around that snowflake. So I'm just basically tracing the different points on the snowflake and cutting that silicone. I'm not pushing all the way down to the snowflake. I'm just working on the surface of the silicone so I can kind of just pull it off like this, and I can get the silicone off of there so I can get that snowflake out. And you could use like an X-Acto blade. I just have this little shop knife that I like to use for all of my projects. And make sure, you're cutting away from yourself when you're doing this. And once you get it kind of started, you can pull that part up and then cut it as you go. And just kind of pull it up and then make a little cut. Some places it was a little bit kind of, it flowed underneath the snowflake more than other spots. But finally I was able to get that all cut off there, and now we're going to take the snowflake out. You can see that beautiful sparkle transferred to the mold, and I also had a little bit, there was like an iridescent product on the snowflake, and that also transferred to the mold. I was like, what in the world? But that's okay, no big deal. You can still see it's really sparkly and beautiful. The snowflake is perfect. I'm going to go in with my cuticle trimmer and some scissors and just very carefully trim up around the points of the snowflake. And I let that mold dry for 24 hours. I let it sit for 24 hours, and now we're going to do a resin pour. This one is Liquid Diamonds resin, and I just had a little bit of blue interference mica powder from Let's Resin. I just had some resin left over from another project I was working on, so I thought, let's try to pour this snowflake mold that we made. So I added a little bit of that blue interference, and now I'm just going to fill the mold up the rest of the way with clear resin. I did mix up my resin off camera, but if you're new to resin and you want to see a tutorial showing step-by-step how I mix my resin, check out my holographic crystal tutorial. I'll link that down below. I show you step-by-step how to mix your resin in that video. I just filled the mold up, and that was it. Covered it up with an upside down storage container, let it dry for 24 hours, and then we'll be ready to demold it. Here we are 24 hours later, ready to pop this out of the mold. I was really excited to see how this turned out because I had never made a mold of a 3D object before, and it ended up turning out really nice. I was really excited that it worked out. I will say the Let's Resin silicone does remain slightly sticky in the molds that I've made with it. So if you guys try this and your mold is slightly sticky, don't worry. It doesn't affect your resin castings. It's just the mold is a little bit sticky. So if you have that experience, don't worry. I've had the same thing happen. It is a more affordable silicone rubber compared to others. So I like to use it especially on tests like this because silicone rubber can be very expensive, and when you're testing stuff out, it's a bummer if you use a lot of product and it didn't work out. But you can see the beautiful facets stayed in the mold, and the crystal design transferred perfectly to our resin piece. I think it turned out really nice. I'm just going to go in with some scissors and kind of trim up a little bit of the rough edges around the perimeter of my snowflake, and that was because I didn't kind of clean up the inside of the mold good enough. So just make sure if you're kind of going to be making a mold of something 3D like a snowflake, just make sure you get any of those rough edges around the points of your snowflake trimmed up inside your mold so they don't transfer to your resin pieces. But it's okay if they do. You can always go in with some scissors or some nippers and just clean them right up and just cut those little rough parts off. But it ended up working out perfectly. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I hope you give mold making a try. I've made quite a few molds on my channel previously, so if you haven't seen those videos, definitely go check them out. I'll link them down below in the description box. I'll be sure to link all the materials I used down below in the description box as well, along with any coupon codes that I have. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and go check out a few more of my other videos. That would really help me out a lot. Helps out my channel if you watch a few of my videos back to back. And for this one, I think I'll end up just attaching like maybe some fishing line or a really pretty kind of delicate piece of twine, and it'll be a perfect ornament for the holidays. I think it would be really pretty hanging in a window too. If the sun hit it, it would give you a really pretty rainbow effect. But let me know what you think. Thanks again for watching. I hope you guys are all doing fabulous, and I will see you soon for another video. Bye, guys.